How's it going, guys? Welcome to Onslaught Reviews, and before we get into the topic at hand here, I just want to quickly apologize for my lack of content over November and most of December. Between moving into a new space and the holidays and an entire litany of other shit that I'm sure you guys don't care about, it's just been an exhausting 2 months, and I didn't really have no time to watch any movies, so, sorry about that. But, with the end of 2019 coming around, I wanted to talk about my favorite movies of this year. So, without any further ado, this is my top 8 films of 2019. Alright, so starting off the list at number 8, I want to talk about Midsummer. So, this is a really unique horror movie for me. Freaking with most horror movies, it's all in darkness and stuff like that. But with Midsummer, everything's in the light of day. It's very disturbing, and it makes the movie even more disturbing. You know what I mean? And this movie packs a punch right from the beginning, and it really affected me when I went and watched it. So if you haven't seen Midsummer and you want to freaking kind of like go back to see some of the movies that you might have missed over the year, that's definitely a good one to start with. Alright, so next on the list at number 7 is Brightburn. Now, I really thought this movie was interesting. It's always been a thing in comic books like, oh, well, what if Superman was evil? And it was really cool to see that brought to life on the big screen. Now, obviously, this isn't a Superman movie. It's not really connected to DC Comics or anything like that. But it's such an interesting concept, and I really enjoyed at the end where they kind of hint at like an evil Justice League. It almost kind of makes it feel like this entire movie is in some sort of bizarro universe, and the acting was really freaking good in this movie. So, once again, if you missed this movie or you want to go check it out again, I definitely suggest you go rent it, stream it, do whatever you want to do, because it is definitely a solid movie for 2019. Alright, so at number 6, I have Shazam. Now, this is a really interesting movie because DC films tend to kind of go hit and miss for a lot of people. With Justice League, it's a very polarizing movie. Same thing with Batman v Superman, but since then, with Aquaman and stuff like that, they've really been starting to kind of hit their stride with, a lot of good material. And I think Shazam is a really good example of that. I remember as a kid, one of my biggest dreams was to be a superhero, and not just grow up to be a superhero right then and there. And I think Shazam really plays it off really well. Being as a kid, you just say a magic word and boom, you're a freaking superhero. And I think that works really well for this movie. And I think both kids and adults, really well enjoyed this movie. It got a really good reception when it came out, so honestly, it's definitely one of my favorite superhero movies of the year. So if you haven't seen Shazam already, watch it again or go watch it. Alright, so at number 5, I got Star Wars Episode 9, The Rise of Skywalker. Now, I haven't done a review for this movie yet because I literally just seen it. I couldn't miss a Star Wars movie, but I just didn't have enough time to really shoot a proper review for it. But I really enjoyed it, and I know that lately these Star Wars movies have been really polarizing, and I just can't really understand it. But the big thing with me with Star Wars is all the Jedi stuff. So it gave me so much of that, and it was such there's a lot of fan service in this movie, and I understand that, and I know people have their problems with it, but I feel like if you go into a movie like this and you're just if you're over-analyzing a movie like this, you're not going to have a good time. And if you already don't like the characters, because I've seen couple different reviews where people just blatantly said, well, I didn't like these characters since Force Awakens. So if that's the case, then you're not going to like this movie. But for me, I like these characters since day one. I really enjoyed them with Rey, Finn, Poe. I love the dynamic of that, especially when they actually are together in this movie like they are, and they're working off of each other. And, it's good. Honestly, it's probably one of my favorites. I always tend to really enjoy the third movies in these Star Wars trilogies, I really enjoyed Jedi, Revenge of the Sith, even though it has its problems. I really enjoyed that one. And this one I really enjoyed again. So, I don't know. Like I said, if you're going to overanalyze a movie like this, you're probably going to come out of it, with, just a real chip on your shoulder. But if you go into a movie like this, an action space fantasy, and just enjoy the action space fantasy, then I think you'll really enjoy this. And honestly, I think number 5 for me is definitely the spot that I'll have this movie. Alright, so number 4, I have It Chapter 2. Now, I really enjoyed this movie. I actually just rewatched this movie last night, and I honestly, it's so perfect from start to finish. It's so much better. You know, both It Chapter 1 and Chapter 2 together is so much better than that frickin' the 1989 miniseries that came out. I don't know, man. It's so hard to explain, but the main thing for me that I take away with this movie is the characters, and specifically Bill Hader. You know, Bill Hader is such a joy to watch as an adult Richie Tozier, and he's just so good at this character that I couldn't. It's hard for me not to think about this movie without thinking about his performance. You know, all the other actors are great. You know, James McAvoy and everybody else, they're great. But for me, Bill Hader really makes this movie for me. So, you know, yeah, if you haven't watched it yet, or if you want to watch it again, you know, go check it out, because it's a solid movie for 2019. Alright, so we're getting down to the top 3, and at number 3, I have Tolkien. Now, I feel like this movie is a very much like a hidden gem, because barely anybody talked about this movie. You know, I went back and looked it up. You know, none of the major reviewers on YouTube really talked about this movie like at all. Now, I don't know if they just forgot that it existed, or they completely missed it, or they watched it and just didn't like it, but for me, this is an awesome story, and, you know, Nicholas Hoult as J.R.R. Tolkien does such a great job in this role, and the cinematography is beautiful. It just, from start to finish, it's just a beautifully shot movie, and it's so good, man. And honestly, I haven't been able to find it on Blu-ray. I need to frickin' find it and watch it again, because honestly, I really want to see it again. But for me, it's definitely one of my top 3 of the 8. So yeah, definitely go see Tolkien. If you haven't seen it, go find it and watch it. You won't be disappointed. Alright, so number 2, I have Avengers Endgame. Now, what can be said about Avengers Endgame that hasn't already been said? You know, I struggle to find the words myself, you know. This movie has been built up over 10 years of building story. It's kind of amazing, starting off from that first Iron Man movie, and we have just this giant freaking array of characters and stuff like that in the Marvel Cinematic Universe, and it all culminates with Endgame, and it's done so well, and freaking, it's just full of fan service and all that kind of stuff, but it's emotionally pleasing. Even the sad parts that really get you, everything is just so, it's just done so well. So, I mean, I've watched it like, I don't know, 15 times since, you know, it came out in theaters and it came out on Blu-ray. So, you know, if you haven't seen this movie, go watch it, especially if you've seen all the other Marvel movies, but if you have, then go watch it again. Because why not? You know, it's 3 hours of awesome that you're definitely going to enjoy your time. So, yeah, Avengers Endgame, number 2. Alright, so before I get to number 1, I have one honorable mention that I want to talk about very briefly, and that's Scary Stories to Tell in the Dark. I really enjoyed this movie. I feel like this movie is like a new Halloween classic, you know what I mean? So, if you haven't checked out this movie, this is definitely one that you want to watch for Halloween, so definitely check that one out for sure. Alright, so number 1 movie of 2019, as far as I'm concerned, is Joker. If you haven't seen this movie, do yourself a favor, go find it, go stream it. You need to watch it right now, because it's just amazing. Joaquin Phoenix gives probably one of my favorite performances, and it's probably close to one of my favorite Joker performances of all time. You know, this movie is so much deeper than just a normal comic book movie. It really dives into mental illness and, you know, freaking society and stuff like that. It's just such an awesome movie. So when I went and seen it, I was blown away. And it's one of the few times where it almost kind of makes you start to root for the villain. And I don't know any other movie that would do that. You know, and freaking, because it's the Joker, he's such an enigmatic figure, not just in comic books, but just in pop culture itself. You know, the Joker is one of those villains that, like, whether you're a comic book nerd or not, like, you know of him. You've seen him. You know that face. You know, someone could show you a picture of him. You don't know the name, but you're going to be like, that's a supervillain. So it's just words can't describe how I felt walking out of this movie, and it's something that I keep coming back to and thinking about, over and over again for 2019 for like the definitive movie for me of this year. So yeah, Joker, number one movie of 2019. Well, alright guys, that's it for me. If you guys like this video, go ahead and like it, comment, subscribe, share, all that fun stuff. And everybody have a happy new year. Don't get too crazy about it. Frickin' drink responsibly and all that kind of stuff. And yeah, I'll see you guys in 2020 with some new reviews and some new content. And yeah, till then, whatever. I don't know. I don't have a catchphrase, so just, later.